earlier this morning, I posted an on this day video from this day, and I think it was 2022, showing body cam footage of the Landon Eastep murder. Now, if you guys don't know who Landon Eastep was, he was a gentleman who was walking along the side of the highway near Nashville, Tennessee. A cop stopped to talk to him. The cop said he pulled a box cutter on her, and then multiple other police officers arrived. There was a 30-minute standoff, and then I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 9 police officers shot him. I posted that video and I said, this is why we need a page 1 rewrite of policing in this country. And this person, along with a couple of other people, said, maybe don't run at the cops with a box cutter, which is a deadly weapon. What do you want them to do? I took the lightning at 20. Tasers are not always 100% effective, blah, 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 blah. Here's the problem with your question. He didn't run at anybody. He didn't. So, when the fuck are you people going to start looking at the facts of a case and stop making up facts to suit your fucking narrative? When? I-65 police shooting in Nashville, a timeline of Landon Eastep's death. On January 27th, what started with a state trooper checking on Landon Eastep, 37, who was walking along Interstate 65, escalated into a multi-agency response and 9 officers fatally shooting Eastep. Eastep was holding a box cutter during the tense 30-minute standoff and pulled a metal cylindrical object out of his pocket before 9 officers from 3 agencies fatally shot him, officials said. The object was not a weapon. Here is the detailed timeline of what happened leading to the fatal shooting and what has happened since. Keeping in mind this article was written in September of 22. Around 1:45 p.m., a Tennessee Highway Patrol trooper stopped to check on Eastep, who was walking along I-65 in Nashville. He was near the Harding Place exit, around 10 miles north of downtown Nashville. Off-duty Mount Juliet Police Department Corporal Fabien Lugjug, I know I'm not pronouncing that name correctly, and I do apologize, was driving by when he spotted Eastep and the trooper and stopped to help. The Metro Nashville Police Department said Eastep reportedly, quote, pulled a box cutter on the trooper. 2 911 callers also told emergency dispatchers Eastep was fighting with the trooper and trying to run away. Run away. A standoff lasting approximately 30 minutes ensued, including Lukja and multiple officers from MNPD and THP. The interstate was shut down in both directions. Eastep was holding the box cutter in one hand and refused to remove his other hand from his pocket during the standoff, according to MNPD. A lawsuit, later filed by his widow, claims Landon Eastep was sobbing and cutting himself with the box cutter during the standoff. Partial body cam footage released by MNPD showed a helicopter circling multiple people shouting commands at Eastep and officers surrounding him on 3 sides with weapons drawn and a guardrail behind him. Multiple officers opened fire after Eastep pulled something out of his pocket and, quote, took a stance as if he had a firearm, said MNPD spokesperson Don Aaron. The object was not a weapon, but rather a cylindrical piece of metal, Aaron said. The body cam footage appeared to capture 2 additional shots fired after Eastep was on the ground and an officer called out ceasefire order. MNPD later said Officer Brian Murphy fired the final 2 shots. Within hours of the shooting, Murphy was decommissioned and stripped of police authority, according to MNPD. The other 8 officers involved, 5 from MNPD, 2 from THP and Lukja, the off-duty Mount Juliet police department officer, were placed on routine leave for administrative assignment directly after the shooting as the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation launched an investigation. Officials identified the 9 officers as yada yada yada. MNPD posted a video to its YouTube channel with partial body cam footage of the shooting, which included footage body cameras worn by Kidd and Williams. The roughly 8-minute video also included commentary by Aaron, the MNPD spokesperson. Now, let's jump to this article about the lawsuit from April of 2024. The case against police officers in the state trooper suit over the 2022 killing of Landon Eastep will continue after a federal judge recently declined to dismiss the excessive force claims against them. 9 law enforcement officials opened fire on 37-year-old Eastep after a tense 30-minute standoff on Interstate I-65 when he pulled a metal object, later determined not to be a weapon, from his pocket. The ruling in the first The ruling is the first significant development in the lawsuit filed by Landon Eastep's widow, Chelsea Eastep, more than 18 months ago. The 6 Metro Nashville police officers and the 1 Mount Juliet police officer who were sued filed an appeal, to the Sixth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals late last week in hopes that the higher court would grant them immunity as part of the same ruling. Crenshaw threw out the claims against the Metro Nashville and Mount Juliet governments, which the lawsuit argued should be held liable for the actions of their police officers. Crenshaw threw out one claim against the officers and troopers for failure to protect Eastep from further harm after the initial shots were fired, but the thrust of the lawsuit lied in the excessive force claim, which survived the ruling. Crenshaw stopped short of denying qualified immunity to the officers and state troopers instead reversing the issue until there is further factual development, yada, 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 yada. With the footage provided, Crenshaw wrote that he can only guess which gunshots belong to each individual defendant. Without additional factual information or evidence, the court cannot identify the subset, if one exists, of individual defendants, so forth, so on. About 1:45 on January 17, 2022, Highway Police Patrol Trooper Reggie Edge Jr. stopped to check on Eastep, who was walking along I-65. Off-duty Mount Juliet, we already talked about that. The trooper and officer drew their guns when Eastep produced a box cutter. The most recent lawsuit claims Eastep produced the box cutter to comply with the trooper's order to give him anything that could harm him. MNPD previously said Eastep pulled a box cutter on the trooper. A 30-minute standoff followed while a second THP trooper and several MNPD officers arrived. The most recent version of that lawsuit, amended in May of 2023, describes Eastep as emotionally distressed at the sight of many officers with guns drawn on him, making him incapable of fully understanding their verbal commands. During the standoff, Eastep kept holding the box cutter but would not remove his other hand from his pocket when asked. Multiple officers opened fire after Eastep brought his hand from his pocket, holding what police have described only as a cylindrical piece of metal that was not a weapon. The most recent version of the lawsuit states that the object was Epstein's vape pen. 9 officers shot, firing at least 33 bullets. 12 bullets entered Eastep's body, an autopsy showed. Only 4 bullets entered from the front of his body, while 5 entered through his back. So, he never charged at the officer. He held the box cutter in his hand for 30 minutes. During those 30 minutes, any number of things could have happened to subdue this person. But they waited. They had a standoff. And then he pulled a fucking vape pen from his pocket. And they fired 33 rounds, with the majority of the bullets that entered his body going into his back. That's why we need a page 1 rewrite on policing. If you cannot identify a vape pen from a gun, you have no business wearing a badge. If your initial response is to just start plugging away in one of these scenarios, you don't deserve to wear a badge. That's why the phrase defund the police, while a moronic phrase, an idiotic phrase that should never be repeated by fucking anyone, is actually true. We need to take money from the police department and spend it within the police department in different ways so that we have people trained to deal with somebody having a mental crisis on the side of the road instead of 9 jackboot thugs whose first response is to just unload on the motherfucker, and not very well, I might add. 33 bullets, 9 entered him, 5 from behind. We got some piss poor policing in this country, and I stand by what I said in that video. And he didn't charge at anybody. Nice try, though.